Since just November, a total of 4 MPs from other parties have now crossed the floor to the Liberals. From the Conservatives, that includes Chris D'Entremont, Michael Ma, and Matt Genereux. And now, Lori Idlout has become the first NDP MP to join Carney's caucus. So what could those shifts mean for both the future of the parties and the future of this parliament? Joining me now, David Herle is a former Liberal Party campaign co-chair. Here in studio, I have Anne McGrath, who was National Director of the NDP, and David McLaughlin, who was Chief of Staff to Conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Anne, I want to start with you. We learned that Lori Idlout was crossing the floor the day after the party began voting for its new leader. How damaging is this crossing for the NDP?
Well, it's not good. We've had a tough time in the last year, for sure, after the results of the last election and a very long leadership race. So things are definitely tough right now, and I'm sure a lot of New Democrats are really sad and disappointed that this has happened. I would rather it happen before a leader is elected than after, to be honest, in terms of, how, you don't want to...
what kind of signal that would send?
Exactly. So I'm glad that it happened before. It's not terribly surprising. She was musing about it before. I know that the Liberals put on a full court press. I've seen photos of, I know that she's been in touch with a lot of Liberal MPs and cabinet ministers. They've been courting her. I've seen her in individual meetings one-on-one with the Prime Minister. I saw her sitting beside him in the House of Commons today. So, they're really putting a lot of effort into this. And when we look at the other floor crossings, we can see that they've been getting international trips, special titles. So I think all of that is really hard to withstand. I think she will be disappointed, though, in her experience as a backbench Liberal MP. I think that this is a mistake for her, and definitely it is. It's fairly damaging for the members in Nunavut who worked so hard to get her elected.
She did also get a question today in question period. David Herle, the Carney Liberals have now taken floor crossers from both the right and the left, clearly buttressing sort of the big tent theory that it is a big tent party. But does that not present a challenge to Mark Carney in terms of now the growing diversity of the caucus and the challenge of keeping that caucus happy, united, when their views become more diverse when you start reaching out of the tent?
Yes, it does, but it's a good problem to have. Larger caucuses are generally better than smaller ones, although some people who are part of, say, Brian Mulroney's would think that there's a limit to that rule. But Mr. Carney is returning the Liberal Party, in my view, to its roots as a centrist brokerage party. And there used to be 2 of those in this country, but now there's only 1. And so I think a lot of people, particularly from the conservative side, who wouldn't really be part of the radical side of that party, find this new formation that Mr. Carney's putting together pretty attractive. And, floor crossers, I don't know what the situation was in this particular case, but they always have in their mind, I think, 2 things, one of which is, what am I going to be able to do differently in this new circumstance if I cross the floor to a different party? How will that change my circumstance as an actor in Parliament? But also, what impact is that going to have on the people of my riding and the people who relied on me? So I assume that this member has a pretty good sense from her riding that people are going to generally approve of this decision. Or she likely wouldn't have made it, even if she feels more like she can make a contribution. So I think probably she came to the conclusion that both she would be able to make more of a contribution to the country as part of the government, and that her constituents would want her to do that.
Now, David McLaughlin, the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, is repeating his accusation that Carney is making backroom deals in order to get a majority. Does another party losing an MP, this time it's not the Conservatives, provide cover for Poilievre, or does it just make the Liberals look even stronger?
Well, I think this is probably a bit of a bittersweet moment for Mr. Poilievre and the Conservatives. Bitter because I think this just shows that they are even further away from achieving power than they were 1 year ago. I mean, that's really the dynamic that's happening. But sweet because it's not them this time; it's the orange team rather than the blue team. Sorry, Anne. You're getting close to PC days of 2 seats back in '93. That
I've
Mr.
been at
Herle
zero
was.
before, so.
Look, a majority that's manufactured or a majority that's elected is still a majority in the House of Commons. And so I think what we are seeing is I'm kind of where David Herle is. This is Mr. Carney is more of a broader centrist approach that is having some appeal. And I don't think it really matters that much to Canadians how this is happening, given that you have a popular government on the ascendancy bringing people in, as opposed to an unpopular government trying to bring people in to, push back the prospect of an election. This is a completely different dynamic. So, look, it is taking us closer, it seems, to the prospect of a majority government. And Canadians want stability and certainty in their government, and so that's a message that the Prime Minister can use. But I think, there's a number of things that are happening here. The individual case of the MP. I do think the Conservatives do have to keep looking in the mirror and seeing what's wrong with their message and why they have to, find some ways to move ahead. But right now, it's all things Carney. I mean, that's just the dynamic that's right in the country now.
It is interesting, though, that Pierre Poilievre announced today that he's going to the United States to stand up, he says, for Canadian workers. So I think that look in the mirror has obviously resulted in some adjustments.
Well, it's better him than Jamil Jivani going in that, but he does have to go. I mean, this is important. We've talked about it here and elsewhere. It's important for a prospective leader, a prime minister in waiting, to show that he, in this time, can actually speak to the world, that he has those kinds of interactions, he has those kinds of cred. We saw him in the UK and Germany. That was the first step, but those are mostly speaking to conservative audiences. Nothing wrong with that. And he had some good messaging for back home. But this is really the whole ball of wax. This is where it happens. My old boss, Brian Mulroney, went to the White House in 1983 as leader of the opposition to start to form that and forge that relationship with Ronald Reagan that has led to free trade and other kinds of things. So it's very important what Mr. Poilievre is doing.
Quite the relationship. And you heard me earlier asking Heather McPherson about Alexandre Boulris being the NDP's only MP in Quebec, openly considering a move to provincial politics. If that happens, the NDP will have just 5 MPs, all west of Ontario. I guess the question is the party at risk of permanent collapse?
Well, I mean, I was an active New Democrat in Alberta in the 90s when we went down to 0 seats provincially and we lost official party status federally. And we rebuilt both in Alberta to a majority government and and federally to a very large official opposition with 103 seats. So I think it'll be tough times for sure. I can tell you on a personal level, I feel sad and betrayed by this. But I think that we have a lot of work to do, but that we can rebuild. I think David Herle was right when he talked about the fact that larger caucuses are easier to manage or to deal with than smaller caucuses. But I do believe that a razor-thin majority, which is what he's going to have here, probably, a razor-thin majority is also hard to handle because you have people who can hold the government hostage, individual MPs, and I think that that's a problem. I think the happiest people probably today would be the Conservatives because the Conservatives are the ones that are most worried about an election right now.
And this does give the chances of that even less time. David Herle, there are 3 by-elections coming up in April. I don't know that anyone's ever talked about by-elections as much as these by-elections, or at least in recent history. 2 of them are considered safe seats for the Liberals, but then, of course, and those 2 would be enough to get them.
In and of itself, a shocking development in the last year that there are safe Liberal seats.
Those 2 seats themselves would give the Liberals a majority if they do hold on to them. So how important is it, though, that the Liberals also still try and win Terrebonne and Quebec, as Anne was kind of talking about this whole razor-thin majority idea?
Well, I think they're going to go all out to win it. for exactly the reasons that Anne articulated, which is that a little bit of breathing room is exceptionally useful. It allows you to maintain the speaker in place. It allows you to have a little bit more control over committees. It allows somebody to be sick. It allows somebody to be angry or off that day. So yeah, it would be very helpful if Terrebonne came through for the government as well. But it does seem likely after last night that there will be a Liberal majority one way or another.
David, Poilievre won his leadership with a very high support in January, or the leadership reaffirmation, 87%. But if the Liberals do secure a majority, if those safe seats turn out to be safe in April, could more doubts about his leadership surface?
It's possible, but I think you said something earlier, Karina, that is true. Like, it's the time factor here. It seems counterintuitive, but I think at this juncture, Mr. Poilievre actually needs for his leadership to retain his leadership, for the Liberals to have a majority. He needs the time to reconnect with Canadians, recalibrate his message, and reset his image with voters. And so a majority Liberal government would offer that kind of time. What it does change as well, though, is the dynamics within caucus. Having won the party with that leadership vote very convincingly, it's now the caucus that matters most. And so if those doubts start to fester a bit, as you note, within the caucus, then that becomes a bit of that becomes more of a problem for him to manage. But right now, time is his friend, and a prospect of a Liberal majority government at least offers that. And then in that case, he has a 50% chance, if you will, of becoming Prime Minister. I mean, there's only two parties that really have a reasonable shot of becoming Prime Minister. So of running the country, becoming PM. So he's going to stay as long as he can, try to withstand any of that kind of pressure, and be on the ballot next time out. And I think the folks that will most determine that internally anyways, it's not the party now, it's the caucus.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you all for joining me. Anne McGrath, David McLaughlin, and David Herle.